All right, make sure I've got the share set. Okay. All right, good afternoon. Today is Friday, the 28th of October. I am broadcasting from my kitchen, so if it sounds a little different, that's why. I'm the only one home right now with my dog. And you may hear a grandfather clock, but it's much easier. I've got a lot more room here than I do where I usually broadcast from. So, maybe half an hour or so ago, I sent out this email, and I don't want to go over all of these, but I did want to mention something that in their own way, Microsoft would kind of like to be a one-stop shop. I know that's a hard thing to believe. All right. But, and I've just recently discovered they had this myself because I was watching a video and I didn't know that it existed. But Microsoft Visual Studio Code has a plugin that's called, MongoDB for Visual Studio. All right. And they claim on there that basically what you can do is you can go and bring your databases up. You can set up a playground where you can practice and try different types of things in there. I've just found out about it, so I haven't looked at it. All right. And I will tell you that this is the actual page for it from the Visual Studio Marketplace. All right. And I did find a couple articles on it that you may or may not want to take a look at. You don't have to do this, but it's something that you might want to take a look at. I watched 2 or 3 of these demos, and to be honest with you, 2 or 3 of them that I watched were not good. All right. And what I mean is either they were very hard to understand because the person presenting, let's just say that English wasn't their first language, or the acoustics weren't good, or whatever. All right. But I just wanted to mention that. In addition, I've been using Postman, but there is something called Thunder Client where you can actually do the equivalent of run Postman type of tests right inside of Visual Studio Code. I have used this before. All right. And I'm not going to lie to you. I've used it before with, for lack of better words, I've kind of used it before with limited success. And what I mean by this is I've used it before and had it work just fine. Then I've gone back to it the next day and stuff just isn't working right. All right. I'm not saying that both of these tools are something you should look at, and I'm not saying it's something you shouldn't. All right. But again, either way, okay. That's just some more stuff that you've got in your toolbox if you want to take a look at it. All right. One of the things about the Thunder Client is this is an article. If you've never gone out to freecodecamp.org, you really should, because they've got, they're a great resource for just about anything that's IT, and especially in the realm in which we are. Okay, so I'll leave that. All right, we're going to finish this up today. Although I've still had some problems with my put, I've got everything else to work, right? But we'll take a look at everything. On Monday, I might actually give you an assignment this weekend. You don't have to turn it in, but I want you to get started on what we're going to be doing on Monday. So we'll go over that in just a bit. And we're going to do that. And I'm going to have you, I'll have, for lack of better words, we'll call it an assignment that'll kind of bring the MongoDB part, just Mongo period, kind of to a close as of Monday. And then starting Tuesday, as it says here, we'll transition over and we'll start working on React. All right, so that is the plan. So the plan is, again, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday will be a combination of lecture and writing some React applications. We'll start very simplistically, and I know with a couple of you that are in here, Clayton and John for sure, I know that you guys have been exposed to React in the AWD1111 class, but I know the other people in the class who have had me for AWD1000, we did not have any introduction to React. So I'm going to go about this with the idea that you've got little to no experience. All right. So the first app or so that we create for the two of you that have had it before, you might be a little bored. All right. Okay. I also emailed you a file today, and I put it in the email. Let me just bring this up because I want to show it to you. All right. It is right here. This is the same thing that we had before. And what I mean is, these are the same 25 movies that I gave you before, but I've changed this around. I was hoping there would be a real simplistic way that I could go in here and I could go into my sandbox that's right here, and I would be able to put movies in. You can see I've got them in, and you'll have them in very shortly as well, okay? So I went and I thought there's got to be something online about this. So I did find something, however, it didn't work. So I thought, what the heck? So I went down to here and I contacted MongoDB technical support, thinking I probably wouldn't hear back from them, to be honest with you, because I'm not a paying customer. I told them right away, I said, I'm not a paying customer. All right. They said, well, where are you from, etc. And I told them that I teach this at a technical college in Missouri. And right away, the guy came back. I'm not sure if Missouri is covered as part of our, whatever. He said, but I'll send you over to our support team anyway. Okay, fine. So he did that. And basically what the guy did was he replicated a lot of the stuff that I already knew, in that this is what you're going to have in just a couple minutes. You'll have the movies database, and you'll have the movies DB database and a movies collection. But then when you want to go and start to add documents, the equivalent of records in here, you click insert document. All right. And notice it already has an ID in here, and I could come in here and I could put in a new field. I can change the type, etc. But, with 25 of these records, with 8 fields per record, that's 200 entries I'd have to make. And I thought, that's a pain in the butt, and I don't want to do that. All right. So when I asked the guy, he goes, oh, there are curly braces up here. And I said, yeah. He said, when you click them, it'll show you a thing down here that says JSON view, and you can just drop your stuff in. And I'm like, no, because it didn't. All right. He goes, oh, no, so we went back and forth yesterday. A couple of you had contacted me on other things, but literally I could show you a mail tree, an email tree of about a dozen emails that we had back and forth. And then he said, well, if you don't click on that one, click on the one next to it. Well, then I get back to where I was. And that's what I told him. And in the last email, the guy's name is Colin. And I said, Colin, really, I very much appreciate the help you're giving me, but I can't figure out how to get into JSON view. That was about 4 o'clock yesterday afternoon. He never responded after that. So I have no idea if I'm going to hear from him again or not hear from him again. So what does this have to do with anything? I went back in, and if you remember, when we looked at that example, this was a while back when we first got into working with MongoDB, period. We had that example that I gave you, and I don't remember if it was products or whatever. It might have been movies. It might have been, I think it was books that we worked on. All right. So I thought, I'm going to go and try to make some changes to that example and see if I can get that to work. And lo and behold, after a little bit of work on it, it did work. And that's what this file here is. So I want to show this to you, and I want to say something about it. Then I want you to add this file to your movie.js file that's part of your models folder. But before you do that, let's just quickly go over this. You'll notice that I've got const, and I made 25 different new movie objects. Movie 01 all the way through movie 25 that you see at the end, okay? And each one of these, so it's got const followed by a name equals new movie, all right? And it did, I will tell you right now, because I should have done this. I thought I changed them, but I didn't. Get rid of those commas that are after. I guess I only have one. Yeah, get rid of all the commas, because it doesn't like that. It blew up on the commas. So literally, I went in, and I'm going to show you where to put this, etc. I've got it in there already, but I want to mention something to you. All right. After you put this in, and after you run it and get it to run, then I want you to comment all of this out. And the reason for that is I don't want it that every time you go and you refresh and you run your program again, I don't want it to add these same 25 movies. So after you add them once and you verify that they've been added, I'll show you how to do that in just a moment. But after you do all that stuff, all right, then just comment everything out. So comment out everything that we're going to put into this file. So we've got these 25 movies. Each movie has 8 fields. You can see them. We've talked about these before. The one that's in here that I may or may not have mentioned yesterday that's a little new, this is of type array. Because again, a movie can be under several different categories. All right. I did not make the rating and enum. That probably would have been a better idea to go in there and get into a little bit to enums, enumerations. You should know enumerations from when we were in C#, because an enumeration is basically a user-defined data type. So we could have created an enum in there, and in that enum we could have had PG, PG-13, R, X, and then like NA or NR probably would have been better for not rated. All right, something like that. You can still do that if you want to. By no means do you have to. All right, and number of stars, the description again, all this stuff, I think I mentioned this to you yesterday. I'm not going to go back out there again, but literally I Googled top 25 movies of all time. And when I did this for you last time, I found one site. When I did it yesterday, the first site that came up was IMDb. This is their top 25 list. All right. So after you do all that, then when we get down, after we've done the 25, you want to do this. And again, I used as a template what we had done when we started in MongoDB. So I wanted to say a movie.insert many, and inside of an array here, so it begins there and it ends there, I put in those 25 movies. All right. Now you probably could get away with just commenting out this stuff right here and leaving the other stuff there, but I think you're better off commenting out everything. But what I want to make sure is that you all do understand what's going on here, and that is we created 25 movie objects. Then we are trying to do a massive insert. So rather than putting them in there 25 times, doing an insert 1 25 times, which would be stupid. The insert many allows you to insert as many records in, I should say, as many documents in as you want to put in. All right. So that's what I've done here. And either it's going to work or there will be an error. If there was an error, I just logged it. I'm going to probably be pretty dead in the water anyway. All right. Otherwise, I just wanted it to say, a console.log 25 documents saved to movies collection. So what you'll see is and we're going to go back and look at all this in just a minute, but when you run it, it says, all right, and I restarted it, but notice when I restarted it, because I didn't comment it out, it says 25 documents saved, 25 documents saved. There is a count command that you can use on a collection to find out how many documents you have in a collection. All right, I didn't do that. All right, but I would imagine I've got more than 25 because I've run this several times. The port I used again was 5678. You can see I'm connected, and you can see this message right here, 25 documents saved to movies collection, is what I got from right there. So you can tell that it worked because it didn't hit the error, it hit the else. All right. So I'm just going to keep rambling, and I'm going to take for granted that if one of you has a question on anything we're going over, you're going to ask. All right. Notice that if I come over to here, let me close this and then reopen it. So if I come over here on the side and I go to extensions and I type in MongoDB, oops, I guess I had it in there already. So let's get that out of there. MongoDB, you'll notice what comes up first is MongoDB for VS Code. And as it says, it allows you to connect MongoDB and Atlas directly. Now, I want to learn this, so I'm going to look at it over the weekend. I'm not sure how much time I'm going to have, but I am going to try to take a look at it. I may watch one or more of those videos. Like I said, I watched a few of them that were not good, but I'm hoping to be able to watch some of them that are good, that explain this. All right? Because again, it sounds like it's a much easier way than to go in through VS Code to do this than it is working through MongoDB and the UI that's in there. All right, so that's in there, and I think I've got Thunder Client already on my machine, but let's look. Thunder client. Yeah, I do. And you can see it says lightweight REST API client for VS Code, which pretty much is the same thing that Postman is. You use it in a very similar manner. I'm not going to demo it because I forgot about this too till right before class. And the guy, one of the videos I was watching on the MongoDB for VS Code, he's like, I use that in Thunder Client all the time. I thought, geez, Thunder Client, I never mentioned that. All right. So with all that said, I'm going to take for granted right now, and you will have to correct me if I am wrong. And that is that when we go in here with what we did yesterday, that you have everything in here for your app.js file. Again, you notice that it's only 14 or 15 lines long. All right. Now, it does not hurt. We can, if we want to, when we came in here, we brought in cores, we brought in .env, we brought in Express, we brought in Mongoose. You know that. We could have brought in body parser. All right. And you'll notice again that even though we didn't bring it in, we're still using it right here. All right. This is part of body parser. And you can, because technically body parser is brought in automatically for you now. All right. I think it was after like, I don't know, like node 8 or something like that. And we're like in node 16. All right. But we could put that in there. We could add that as well. So we added those. We've got this config file, which we're going to go over again in just a moment. All right. And then we've got our const app. I set the port up, etc. And then there's the rest of it. We've got our 3 lines of middleware. And really, we're not even using cores in here. I wanted to put it in there because we're going to start on a different example today, and we're going to finish that example next Monday. And when we do, we want to talk more about using tokens and the like and having people be logged in, etc. All right. So we've done all this. Then we set up our routes. Okay. So basically, this brings in, you already know this, this brings in that file that's right there from our movie routes file. And our movie routes file, as you know, basically says, okay, when you call this route, when you bring in this route right here, then run this controller, etc. for all 5 of the ones that we've got. Again, I don't think that's really anything new. All right, then we've got our app.listen. But hopefully you agree with me that one of the nice things about what we've done in here now is the fact that we don't have very much bloat in our app.js file. In fact, we have as little bloat almost as you can possibly have in here. All right, so let me close this file. All right, and again, I know I'm just trying to be complete here. So we went through yesterday our movie route file, and again, there shouldn't be any surprise in here. You know as well as I do that the names that's right here, etc. These 5 names must be the same names as our methods or functions in our controller file. All right, and a lot of times, you won't have. I didn't want to make these super elaborate names, but I wanted them to be descriptive enough that you understood what was going on. You also should know that anytime we're dealing with a single, like here, and here, you'll notice, all right, that not the post because we don't put in an ID, but for the get for a single movie, the put for a single movie, and the delete for a single movie, we need an ID. Again, there shouldn't be anything new in there. You may have noticed yesterday when I was running my program, all right, yesterday when I was running my program, I was getting different errors. One reason I was getting an error was I didn't have this line in there. I didn't have the line which was exporting module.exports equal router. And since I wasn't exporting it, all right, it was actually giving me an error in my app.js file because I was trying to bring it in right there where I hadn't exported it. All right, so enough of that. So let's go back. So we have now gone back and reviewed. All right. We've reviewed our app.js and our movie route.js. So let's go next into the controller. And again, we looked at this yesterday. I don't think I had to make any changes in here other than one, and I'll show you what that is in just a moment. All right. This is bringing in our models DB file. Notice again, we don't need to say the .js. It doesn't hurt if you do, but there's no reason to do that because it defaults to db.js and this defaults to movie.js. But again, you can put it in there if you want to. All right, so this made our connection stuff available to us. All right, and this basically made our schema available to us. All right, and we're going to look at that schema in just a moment. So again, hopefully everything that was in here made at least some sense to you. All right. So in other words, when we go out to localhost :5678 / I think it was, what is it, /API/movies, this is the one that's going to run. It's going to do a movie.find. Even if you remove the async from here and the await from here, it'll still work. But the recommendation is always that when you are working on any kind of an operation that could take some time, you use a combination of async await. It's just considered to be a better way to program. And I don't have any idea where you guys are all going as far as, maybe you like what we're working on now. Maybe you hate what we're working on now. But, I wouldn't close myself off to anything. And, if you decide, and I hope you do, to put at least one of these projects eventually, if not more, out in your portfolio, and you've got a link to your GitHub repo, people may look at your code to see how you coded. So this basically is taking this variable movies, and it's grabbing everything from our find operation. In other words, it's grabbing every movie. And we've got a res.json here. Just so you know, there are certain times if you try to run commands in Postman, all right, and it locks, if it just sits there and it seems like it's spinning, typically you want to add like a res.json. Even if you just add a message, that says it worked or it didn't work or whatever, because sometimes otherwise it'll hang if you do that. So this should show us all of our movies. All right. So let's take a quick look. So I'm going to go back to Postman here. All right. I've been playing with it today, but I'm going to close everything that I've got. All right. I'm going to just start brand new. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to go to localhost :5678 /API/movies. All right. And as you can see, when you look in there, okay, that is a typical get. And when I click send, I get everything. So there's all my movies. All right, you're going to get all this in just a minute. We're going to go through it in just a second. But I'm going to come in here and let's grab Pulp Fiction. I'm going to grab the ID from Pulp Fiction, just the ID. You don't want the double quotes, but you want everything else. So now when I go back up to here and I do a / and I bring in that, you'll notice that my get one movie comes up and I just get that information for Pulp Fiction. And if you notice that when you look in here again, you can see that the category indeed is an array. All right, so let's jump back. So that was the first one. And again, unless people have questions, I'm just going to keep going. So to get a single movie, pretty much the same thing, except rather than do a movie.find, we're doing a movie.find by ID. And since we're doing a find by ID, we must, of course, all right, provide the ID. All right. And this is the ID that we're passing in. So from what you saw earlier, all right, when I put in the one for Pulp Fiction, that was the ID. So we told it to find using that ID. And again, it's not that it's mandatory that you do this, but I made it singular because it's a single movie, oops, that we're going to be getting back. And with all these, again, if there is an error, all right. And earlier when I did this, and I may have just figured out what my error is, but we'll see in a second. All right. But I've been having an error on the put. And what it comes back with, it says message like this. And then for error, it's not showing anything. So in other words, it's just showing an empty object. What I mean is it shows a beginning curly brace and an ending curly brace. That ain't what I want. All right. So let's come in here and let's talk about what we need to do to insert a single movie. I know we went through this yesterday, but we're creating a new variable called new movie, and then we're grabbing those 8 different things that we have in there. All right, those 8 different things that we have in there, those 8 fields. All right, and we're going to fill each one of them up. Since every one of these is required, if I try to put my stuff into Postman and I leave any of these 8 fields out, I should get an error. All right. In fact, I should get those errors that we showed when we went through with the schema before. All right. But if I come through here and I'll come over to here because I was playing with this before and I did put in a new movie. All right. I grabbed Avengers, a new Infinity War. Okay. But I made some changes to it in here. This is the original one that's right here. All right. And I'm going to just change this just so you see it. I want to put in here Avengers. I'm going to just say new beginning. I'm making all this up right now. All right. The year made, we'll keep it at 2023. The running time, I'm going to make it 222. That's fine. We'll make this, I don't know why, but we'll make it R. All right. Number of stars, I'm just going to make it 7. I'm just changing a bunch of stuff. So the description, the Avengers are back for even more adventure. And I did go out to imdb.com, and that actually is the image for it. So I'm going to put this in there, right like this. I'm going to copy. So you notice I've got Avengers New Beginning. That I do not have a movie in there with that name. And I'm going to jump over to Postman. And when I do, I'm going to create a new one right here. And again, I'll do my localhost : 5678, all right, /API/movies. Now I'm not going to run this because if I did, it would just do a get. I want now this to be a post. So I choose post. I come over to body. I click on raw. I make sure it says JSON down here. I come in here and now I can paste in that stuff that I just had. This is the same thing I just showed you. Avengers, New Beginning, year made, etc. And what I did do in my code, what I did do is I said, hey, after you get done with all that, so try it, all right, and then show in my results field that new movie. And if there's an error, of course, show the error. So when I come in here with all this new stuff and I've got post, all right, and it looks like this morning I spelled localhost wrong. I wish you could make this bigger, but it was screwing me up for a while. And it looks like I may have, no, I didn't. All right, well, let's see if it works. All right, it's telling me that there's an error. I want to type this in again. I spelled movies wrong, I can see that. So localhost : 5678 /API/MOVIES. That should be correct. All right, so here is everything. Send, and there is, right there, there's my results. Avengers New Beginning, 2023, 222, etc. Now to test and make sure that it worked, I'm going to go back and I'm going to create yet another thing in here. And I'm going to go back and do my get again with localhost : localhost : 5678 /API/movies. All right, I'm going to send. There it all is. And if I go down to the very bottom of what's in here, there's Avengers New Beginning. So that worked. What I'm telling you is, as of right now, in the API, the REST API that we're creating, we have been able to do a get all, a get one, and a post. All right, all of that stuff worked. So let's go on. So the next one was for updating a single movie. Okay. And I'm just looking right here. Let's see. Where is that? All right. So this was for updating a single movie. This one has not been working. I did find out this morning when I was doing this and I was running through this, I wasn't passing in the ID. So it didn't know what to update. Well, that made sense. All right. But this was, exports update single movie. So this is the one that should run when you do a put. All right. And you do your /API/movie/ followed by the ID. All right. So there's the different fields that are in there. I'm not going to read them off. You've seen these before. I looked through here. I didn't see any spelling errors. All right. I didn't see any spelling errors in here. I didn't see any spelling errors in here. All right. So you come in here then, and again, we do a try. All right. And I called it updated movie. Okay. And we did an await. So again, this is, as we mentioned before, done with an async and an await. All right. And we're doing an update 1, and we're passing in not only the 8 fields, but the 9th field, which is the ID that already exists. All right. And then when we come in here again, we are saying, if there is an error, catch the error. All right. And give us that 400 status again. All right. Now, when I tried doing this earlier, it didn't work, but I am going to try it in front of you and see if we get the same result we did before. So what we just brought in has got this ID right here. So I'm going to copy that ID. All right, I'm copying that. And I'm going to come in here and remember that when we come in here and we do a put, all right, so when we come in here and do a put, it is expecting with a put that we are changing every single field that's in there. So in other words, I'm going to go back and I'm going to change this to what it really should be. All right. So I've got here Avengers, there it is, Avengers New Beginning. All right, etc. In fact, this was like 2018. This was, what was it, like 2 hours and 129 or something like that. And it was a PG-13. And it was about 8.3 or something like that. And I'm not going to change. I could go back out there and grab this, but I'm not going to do that. All right, so I've now got this. So I'm attempting to replace everything that's in there for that one ID. I'm attempting to replace everything with this. All right, but like I said, when I tried it, it didn't work. So come in here, do your put. So again, it'll have to be body, it'll have to be raw, it'll have to be JSON, and then come in here and put that in. So I'm attempting to replace everything you see here, other than the ID, of course, with what you see here. All right. And if it works, all right, if it works, what did we do before? Let's see. So if all of this stuff works, let's see, I want to make sure I want to do it the way I did the other one that actually works. So we do our try. All right, we do that and we do a res.json. I think that's what we did in all these. Okay, so a try. We've got all that stuff in here. All right, and we should be able to, after this, to say res.json, and we want to put in here the updated movie. So I want to see if that works or it doesn't work. All right, because when I tried doing this before, like I said, it didn't show anything. So Let me do a file save all. All right. And go back. It's always a good idea, of course, when you do this to make sure I didn't break anything here. Yeah, it's still running. Okay. So I'm going to go back into here now. I should be able to do this. All right. So let's send. And that's what I got before. So I'm still working on that and I'll get it fixed. But it came back with just message with an open and close curly. I want to fix that because technically right now it's not working the way that it's supposed to be working. All right. And the last one that is working okay, because I'm about to remove this record. All right. And notice it's Avengers. I just want to, in fact, I'll grab a different one from here. All right, I'm just going to go down. I don't know what's at the actual bottom here. Idiots. Okay, so I'm going to remove that one. All right, so for the last one, then I'm going to attempt to go in here and do a delete. Again, localhost, :5678/API/movies. All right, / and we're going to put in that ID. All right, and send. And that's interesting because it worked fine when I tried it this morning. It may be because, again, I may not have anything that I wrote in here like a res.send and said something like, movie deleted. So let's see if I did that or didn't do that. And I didn't. So I should come back in here and just say like res.send movie has been deleted. Something like that. All right, file, save. And I don't think that would have broken anything, but I'm going to check. There we go. All right. And let's just notice movie has been deleted. So that's why it was hung there. It was waiting for that. And if I go back here again to get, and I go back to my /API/movies like this, click send to show me everything. And I go down to the bottom. Well, that's not good because it's showing me that idiots is still there where it should have removed it. Another thing to check out. All right. I have no idea because it said that it had been removed. The code in there was correct, but it's another thing to check. I don't know. All right. Because that's a pretty simple one. Okay. It's a delete one. You've got to make sure that you're giving it the parameter or the ID to delete. Okay. That's all that you don't want to pass all that stuff in there. There's no sense in doing it. Then we just wanted a message. Movie has been deleted. And if there was an error, it should have caught it. It didn't show anything, but yet the delete one based off the ID I gave it did not appear to work. All right. So we'll have to check on that one. All right. So let's jump back into here. Let me close this and close this. Come back to here. And then let's take a look at both of our model files. Let's do the DB JS one first. Okay. Now this is my whole DB.js file. All right, const mongoose equal require mongoose connect using the env file. All right, that thing that says MongoDB _URI. I want to show you that in a moment. All right, make the connection. And again, this is taken from someplace right on their website. That's just the way they suggest that if there's an error that you do it like this. All right, otherwise you open it and you say that you're connected. And you already saw on here where it says connected to movies database. That's this line that you see right here. All right, now I don't typically like to expose this kind of stuff, but I will anyway. When I go to my .env file, this is the kind of line that you have to put in there. Let me just grab everything because it's kind of big, and let me put it into a different editor where it'll be easier for us to see it. So let me put it in here. All right. And maybe that isn't any easier, but you can call this whatever you want. It's MongoDB URI, and this right here again, this I went in and I grabbed it right from where I showed you yesterday. And I'll go back and show it to you in just a minute, where we told it basically to grab it by the connection. This is, I went in and I didn't realize I did this, but I stupidly, I made both my login name, Jeffrey P, and my name for my user, let me say that again. I made both my login name, JP Scott, and so my login name was JP Scott, and so was my username. All right. And this Colin guy, one thing he told me was make a new user right away, because he said sometimes it doesn't know which one you're referring to. So make sure they're different. So my login name is JP Scott, but my username is Jeffrey P. I auto-generated the password. All right. And then for the rest of it that's in here, this was all of the stuff that they gave me right here, except it didn't have this in there. So it had @sandbox, and yours would probably be different. .xt2pm.mongodb.net/ and then it said retry rights equal true and W equal majority. Okay. Well, this is the name of the database that you want to create right there. So when you put all this in, this was the same thing that we grabbed yesterday, if you remember. All right. We went in here and we went to, no, not the database. Then that didn't like that. Database, what doesn't it like? All right. So we went in here and under database, we went to connect, and then this is what yours looked like, I believe. All right. And mine didn't. All right. I'm still not sure why mine didn't, but it didn't. So I chose the connect your application and I grabbed this. So when you grab this, I just want you to see the difference again. So again, MongoDB, well, let's move it over. So that's the same. This has got to be replaced with whatever your username is, and don't use those brackets. Keep the colon. This has got to replace what was in there for your password. And again, get rid of the angle brackets. And then the rest of it that's in here, this is exactly the same. All right. Except I went back in and instead of just after this slash, I put the name of the database I wanted to create, which again was movies DB. Now, hopefully I went through that slow enough and extensively enough that what I just said to you made sense. Like I said, that's at least my hope. All right. Okay. So then let's look at the one file that you will have to make changes to then. And that is the movies.js file. So let me get rid of that. Let me shrink this way down and we'll just take a look at what's in here. All right. So this hasn't changed. Const mongoose equal require mongoose, const movie schema equals new mongoose.schema. This was the schema I'd set up. All right. With title, year made, running time, category, rating, num stars, description, and image. All right. This is what I added new. This line right here is almost the same as what we put in down at the very bottom here. See that mongoose.model movie? All right. And so you might say, yeah, fine, it's the same thing. Then why did you put it up here? Because the 25 documents right here need to know what the heck movie is. And if you don't show it until the bottom of the program, if you know when you export it, it doesn't know what it is. So that movie right there is this movie right here. So you will have to go in then, and like I said, you will have to add this line right underneath your schema. All right, I'll leave that up there for just a second, and then you will paste in those 25 movies that I just gave you. And again, if you don't want to do this, if you want to go back and use your movie database, whatever you had in it, go ahead and do that. I don't care. All right. especially that might be a good idea, especially if you are going to put, a couple copies of this out there, possibly on your portfolio, and show it both in MySQL and showing it here as a REST API in Mongo. But it's up to you. You do what you want to do. All right. So again, we've got this line const movie equal mongoose.model movie. And remember, what this is going to do is it's going to make a collection for us that's going to be called movies, all in lowercase. And it's going to do that based off of that schema. All right. And so each document that follows that schema. In other words, it's got those 8 fields are shown in each one of these 25 things that are here. All right. The only thing I wouldn't suggest, and you can do it or not do it, I know that in some languages, the word image actually is a reserved word. I probably should have called that IMG. So if I would have called it IMG up here, which is probably what I should have done. All right, so way the hay up here. I probably should have called that IMG right there. And then I could have called all the rest of them IMG as well. All right. Okay, so then down at the bottom, and again, you have this code. Then we did the movie.insert many. Now, I didn't format it like this. I put 5 on a line, but it reformatted it for me. All right, so we are attempting to insert all 25 movies in right here. All right, and we're telling it if they're, it's either going to succeed or there'll be an error. If there's an error, we're just logging it. Otherwise, we're logging the message 25 documents saved to movies collection. All right. And as I already said to you before, I'm saying it again because it's that important. I don't know. I don't know if putting it here, if it's only running it once or if it's going to run it multiple times. I don't know. But you'd probably be better off, at least after you run it and get it to work, of coming in here and at least commenting out this code that's right here, because that's doing the insert. I don't think putting these things in here are going to hurt anything. But if you want to, all right, if you want to, now I'm just going to, I don't know if this is going to work, what I'm about to show you or not, but I'm going to keep the schema. But where we've got these new movies right here, all right, I'm going to grab everything from right here and I'm going to do a comment line and I'm going to go down all the way to right here. And I don't want to comment out that last line. So now everything is commented out and I'm going to do a file save. All right. Why am I telling you this? Because now when I go back and I view my terminal, what you notice is I don't get that message anymore, 25 documents saved to movies collection. All right. So I'm sure that it should only be put in there once. All right. After you go and run through and do all of this stuff, so after you run through and do all of it, then you should be able to get into MongoDB. And then when you go in there and you click Browse Collections, if everything worked, you will have a movie, wherever the heck it is, a movies DB, as we've got right here. All right, and it'll have movies in it. All right, it'll have those movies. This is the same information that I just showed you and brought up with Postman. All right, now there's a lot of stuff that you can do right in here. You can go in and you can run queries from in here. All right, you can add records or documents, I should say, from in here. You can delete documents that are in here. You can modify documents in here. This is one of the things I'm going to show you on Monday. All right. Now, the other thing that I want you to do, and I'm going to ask you to try to do this. All right. I've got it done, but I'm going to ask you to try to do this. All right. What I'm going to do is, rather than give you, maybe I'll call it part 2 of the test. I don't know, but I'm going to ask that you turn this in that we're working on right now, and it works. Plus, we're going to redo the to-do one with this. So I haven't sent you this yet, but I will send it to you in just a couple minutes. And that is, I just literally wrote this right before class. So you'll come in, you'll create a new to-do Atlas folder, you'll do your npm init -y, you'll update main to say app.js, you'll add your start and your dev start, put your name in as author, you will install the same four things we just installed for this project, plus NodeMon. You'll create a folder structure that's virtually identical to what we just did. So you'll have your app.js, you'll have an API folder under your root, and it'll have a controllers folder, a models folder, and a routes folder in it. The controllers folder will have a to-do controller.js. The models folder will have a to-do model, and it'll have a db.js. Sometimes what you see with this one is instead of putting this into models like this, what you'll oftentimes see is what developers will do is they will come down here and they will make a config folder that's not part of API. They'll make a config folder all on its own. And then they will put the db.js in there, which is totally fine. The only thing consistent about doing this, and not to be funny, it's not funny, is that there's no consistency. In other words, there's no article that you can find that'll say, whenever you create yourself a new node project that's going to use model view controller, you do it like this. Because there's no universal agreement on how this should be done, how this should be named, and how this should be named, etc. Some of them just literally call it controller.js, model.js, routes.js. I don't like that, but you can if you want to. It sure as heck doesn't hurt anything. So I'll want you to set up the folder structure, all right? And you'll have your package JSON and your package lock JSON. Then I want you to create a to-do schema. We'll put a little more in it than we had last time. All right, we'll put in 3 fields. We'll have a text field, and that'll hold your actual to-do text. It'll be a string that's required. We'll have a completed in there that we may or may not end up using. All right, but that'll be a Boolean. You know what a Boolean is, of course, and that'll be required. And then finally, we'll have a create date. And the reason I added this is I wanted you to see that rather than putting in here required true, where you would always make the user put that in, you can also default things. So if I default it, that'll default it to the current date, which to me, again, is a lot cleaner than you having to worry about putting that stuff in yourselves. All right. And I haven't run this yet. I don't think this needs paren. I think it's just date.now. But again, I'll check it. I'll check that later. Then we export it. All right. Then I want you to set up your endpoints, which is what these are referred to, and create the associated routes for these. So a /API/todos will be for your get all. A /API/todos will be for your post. A /API/todo with an ID will be for your get one, and for your update one, and for your delete one. And I want you to set up the routes. In other words, it's pretty much a mirror image to what we just did, but I want you to do it. All right. And I'll go over it on Monday. I'm going to show you what I did, but this is a good testament for yourselves to see if you understand everything that we've been doing and how it's done. All right. Then I'd like you to go in after you create the routes and go in and set up the methods. All right. So a get all to-dos method in your to-do controller, a get one to-do method, an add new to-do method, an update one to-do method, and a delete one to-do method.
Mr. All right? Scott?
Yes.
So when do we have to turn this in by?
No, what's going to happen is we're going to, okay, let me answer your question. It'll be a week from Sunday. All right. So it'll be the 6th. Now, that said, what I'm going to do for part 2 of this test is I am going to have you make sure that this totally works. All right. And we're going to do this on Monday. I'm going to show you exactly what I did. Then we're going to add the JS web token, and we're going to attempt to add authorization into this. All right. And then what I'm going to expect you to do, and you will have, a week from today to work on this. All right. And that is, I will expect you to get both the movies REST API and the to-do REST API working. And for both of them, I'll want you to include the JS web token so we'll have authorization. All right. Hopefully I answered your question, but you'll get a handout from me on Monday that'll have everything I'm expecting of you. All right. And yes, it'll be due a week from Sunday, which is November 6th. If I can write it up this weekend, I'll send it out to you earlier than that. All right. Hopefully I answered your question. All right. So you will write these in your controller. These will be the methods in your to-do controller.js. Then you will set up your app.js accordingly. All right, including setting up your const express equal require express, your const app equal express, etc. You will bring in the routes. Let's just again, basically the same way we just did this. All right. And then I'm going to expect, as I say here, we'll pick it up on Monday. I'll go through it nice and slow on Monday. All right. But the reason, like I said, I want you to do this is technically you're just reproducing what we've already done together. All right. And that's okay. But there is something to be said for repetition. And since I plan, at least on Monday being the last day, so on Monday we're going to do 3 things. On Monday, I'm going to go over how I did all this. All right. And on Monday, I'm going to finish this. I'm going to add the authorization right in front of you. So that's 2 things. And third, I'm going to come in and I'm going to have a set of commands that you can run from right in here. All right. I'll have an example of each one of them. So you won't have to do these. But if you decide at a later time when we're working on our next assignment, our React or whatever, that you want to go in and you want to run some queries, you'll know how to do it from right inside of this Atlas GUI. All right. So, like I said, I'm going to send this to you. I'm going to fix it up a little bit, but I'm going to send it to you in about 5 minutes. All right. I had no idea how long this was going to take. Hopefully you don't feel cheated. As I wrote down, this has not been a good week. I lost one of my students in the morning class, and I've got 1 or 2 other ones that are in danger of failing, so I've been spending a lot of time with them. That's not an excuse. All right. I want to get more done than I've been getting done. So now, again, on Monday, 3 things. Finish up this project. All right. Add authorization to this project and show you a bunch of different queries that you can run in the GUI. Then starting on Tuesday of next week, we're just going to turn it all the way over to React. All right, we're going to look at some very simplistic React stuff, but my hope is that between Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, we can try to pull in the whole MERN thing. In other words, Mongo, Express, React, and Node. All right, and if we can do that, this will be this week coming up, so the week of the 31st and the week of the 7th. All right, and you're going to have time in there to work on, assignments, etc. And then starting on the 14th, which will give us 14, 21, 28, about 4 weeks. And I know that Thanksgiving is in there, etc. I get all that stuff, but we are going to attempt to go in and actually build ourselves an e-commerce site. That'll be the last thing. So in lieu of a final exam, that's what you'll be doing, and you'll have to turn in what you have. All right. Any other questions on anything we've gone over today?
Yeah. In your code, can I see your const that you put on your movies.js?
You sure can. Is this what you mean right here?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay. So yeah, I don't know if I included that line in what I gave you guys or not. Make sure you put that in there first. I don't want it to fail on you. But again, I'd recommend running this once and then commenting it out so you don't see it in there every time. I don't know if it's continuing to add it or not. I guess it depends on where you put it, how you call it, etc. But I thought this was a cleaner way of doing it. Any other questions? Clayton, any questions?
I actually have a question about the to-do project.
Yes.
On the edit button, I
Yes.
know I asked you to take a look at it yesterday,
Yeah.
but I'm not for sure how to get my thing into a text box, like an input box.
Okay, I'll tell you what I'll do is I'll go back to mine and at least try to give you a hint. How's that?
Okay,
And
that's-
I will send that out with the email that I always send out at the end of these lessons, giving you the URL and stuff for it. Okay, so I'll have that for you in a little bit.
All right,
Any
awesome.
other questions? All right, then with that, have a good weekend. Again, you'll get this write up. I'll probably put it in a Word document so it'll be formatted a little nicer, but you'll get that within 5 or 2. Well, you'll get, I'm going to include this along with the email that you'll get later. So you'll have all that stuff by 1:30. All right. Have a good weekend. I'll talk to you all on Monday.